Good evening, good evening. How are we all doing today? Welcome to the Book Hour, powered by the Booksellers Limited. I'm your host tonight. My name is Folari Mosuru, and I'll be speaking to Mr. Afolabi Mukwede. He's the author of this beautiful book here, um, Never an Afterthought. Um, Private sector pragmatism to government idealism and the N-Power success story. Um, we had an amazing session with him last week, and I'm sure that this session is going to be equally as amazing. And I just want to with the author, and we'll get started as soon as he joins. So stick with us, and let's go on this ride. Ambassador Buhari, it's great to have you here. Rolake Dairo, good evening. Good evening, good evening. Good evening, good evening. So I'm just waiting to connect with Mr. Falabi and then we can get started. If you missed last week's session, it was really inspiring, really engaging, and it was very enlightening. I thought it was a mentoring session. It's great to have when you have people who have worked in the private sector and then they have also gone into the public service. It's great to have that opportunity for them to share their experience, which is what happened. So I'm just going to try and reconnect again with Mr. Folabi. Probably is a network issue. So just please bear with us. He'll be online very soon. Can you hear me? I mean, you can give me some feedback. Can you hear me? If you can, please let me know. Can you hear me loud and clear? Good evening, Mr. Marawa Kupanjo. Good evening, artsfoods.ng. I'm just waiting to connect with the author, Mr. Falabi. Thank you very much for the feedback. Chigo Macdom, great to know you can hear me. Okay. I'm connecting with Mr. Falabi.
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
How are you doing, sir?
Good.
Wonderful.
Good.
Well,
how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
How's been the week?
It's been great. How's yours been?
Not bad. Hectic, but hey, thank God.
No worries. So I'm speaking to Mr. Folabi Mukwede. If you were here last week, we had a mind-blowing session. And I'm sure that today will not be any different. But just in case you don't know the author, he's the author of this book, Never an Afterthought. And I'm just going to read his short bio. Yes, he's also showing you the book. And then we will start with the questions. So Mr. Mokwede is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Job Creation. But he also served as the head of the N-Power job creation component of President Muhammad Buhari's National Social Investment Program between 2015 and 2019. Prior to his appointment to national assignment, he was the pioneer CEO of MCS Consulting Limited. He's an accountant by profession. He's an experienced international development consultant with sector focus on construction, real estate, and small business development. He's also a certified project management and human capital strategist with emphasis on technical, vocational, education, and training. This is just a snippet of his loaded CV. So it's nice to have you here again, sir. And
Thank you.
Last week we talked about your student days and how you you got your job with KPMG.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, I'm
tonight
just
I
trying
want
to
to begin. No
Yeah, I can
problem.
hear you.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah. So tonight I just want to begin with the Nigerian Economic Summit Group and its role in your relocation to Nigeria. How did that happen, sir?
Okay, so I don't know that they played a role. It was the person that played a role, but not the organization. So at the time, as I had mentioned in the book, Dr. Mary Agboli, who is a World Bank consultant till date, is a big sister, and we were all in the States at the time. So, but she obviously had begun her own, what would be a short-lived, how do you call it? A short-lived transition to Nigeria.
Yes, sir.
And I think so when she got an invitation to join the Nigerian Economic Summit Group while in the States, and she did come to Nigeria and she joined them. So in the course of our several conversations in the US, she had then mentioned that, oh, well, the summit was going to be the summit in October 2001. And that perhaps I may want to come, I may want to attend, because that will give me the opportunity to be able to experience Nigeria, meet with people, and just learn more about the economy to enable me take a decision if it's really what I want to do, or I want to just stay back and continue. So that's what it is. So the summit in itself, yes, played a role in that summit was a gathering that enabled experience Nigeria in a 3-day, what you call helicopter overview in a 3-day meeting, meet with people as I discussed in the book as well, a few plenaries, the plenary and a few breakout sessions that I attended. I remember one in particular. There are many more I can't remember in clear details, but there was one in particular, the one that was on public-private partnership. And at the time, it had participants like Malam Nasir El-Rufai, who's the current governor of Kaduna State, in his position then as the DG of Public Bureau of Private Enterprises, BPE. It had Mr. Tedo Peterside, chairman of Stanbic IBTC. In those days was IBTC, but now Stanbic IBTC. It had Mr. Sheyi Bikashet. He was then the country director CEO for KPMG Nigeria, and so that those were the type of brain tasking conversations that happened, and I was able to get a proper glean. And of course, just as it continues till today, the summit was declared open by the president, and also the vice president would also participate. So yes, you could get. It afforded me that helicopter overview to glean into Nigeria, into the trajectory, into the trends, and where I could possibly position myself. Yes, and so yes, maybe more importantly, it was right after that summit I then decided that yes, Nigeria was going to have a go or have a shot at it. And in fact, it was that period, late last quarter 2001, that I registered my private company, MCS Consulting Limited at the time. Yeah.
Okay. So it still took a few years before you eventually relocated.
Yeah. So at that time, I wouldn't know, but it eventually took 4 years. Although in between that 4 years, I was engaged in quite a lot of back and forth, short-term consultancies here and there. But yes, it took 4 years before I finally came back to Nigeria.
Okay, and when you came back, there's something I read in the book that you're probably one of the few people, few Nigerians I know who would have said no to a job opportunity to work in an organization like Phillips Consulting, and even I think I read Mr. Tony Lumelu as well. I mean, you said no to these big giants. How did that happen?
Okay, so with Mr. Folusho Phillips or Phillips Consulting at the time, so it was I had not even come back, but I had started, you know, my what I would call my gradual descent, which is what we ended last week. And in that gradual descent, the first thing then was to pick up short-term consultancies. And I had this particular project I was working on, which necessitated my meeting with him. And if my memory does not fail me, I think it was in the year 2003. It's between 2003 and 2004. I can't be very precise. But so of course we went. The project necessitated me meeting with him, and I went to discuss the project. But in the course of it, just like I do it now, just like any, you know, any wise business person, you would always understand that your job as a CEO of any business is actually talent hunt. That's really your core job. It's to hunt for talent and to manage that talent and to manage your customers. I think those are really the three key roles for chief executives, whether within the tactical strategy or within the broad strategy. But then, so for him, he then reached out. I'm like, okay, so what are you doing? How did you come about this? And he was like, hey, I mean, we can do it a different way. Perhaps if you want to consider the fact that you could actually come in and drive this aspect of our business. And at the time, it was the total quality management methodology. You know, these were days that preceded project management, as you will now know it. But at that time, it was TQM, total quality management, which always talks about continuous improvement. And as Philips Consulting being a process improvement firm, consulting firm, so it was one of their ideologies as a firm. And I was planning a workshop around it, even as a visiting consultant from the US. So that was when that. So it was an offer. But yes, I didn't. So it wasn't as though I turned it down. The whole point was I didn't really consider it. I just felt, oh, thank you so much. I mean, it was a very courteous experience, but I didn't feel, why would I need it? I mean, in the first place, if I just did a direct conversion of what I was earning in KPMG here, there was no way it could match up. And the question then is, I wasn't fired. I didn't have issues with my employer. I didn't have issues with immigration. So this is something out of choice, you know. So there was, I didn't give it a second thought. But as I later said in the book, I've now journeyed the years ahead. You then see, part of lessons learned is perhaps it was not a bad idea at all. Because when you come into a new environment, and this is quite important, because even just yesterday in discussing another session, discussing with Nigerians in diaspora in Canada, just having a conversation, an informal conversation. One of the questions I was asked is, how do you network? You want to give back, but how do you network in an environment where you do not know anybody or you do not know the actors? And I think this lies the answer, which was my situation at the time. Perhaps one of the opportunities, one of the answers to that question is to then pick up an assignment in that local environment, because with that assignment, you will then grow your own personal network. You will build your relationships, which will then help you to dot your I's and cross your T's. So that's something I looked back to say that if perhaps I'm walking this journey again, I may be a little wiser than what I did the other time. Yeah.
Okay. Well, MCS Consulting has not done too badly, so all is well that ends well.
Well, yes, exactly.
So now let's talk about Skill Up.
Yeah.
I guess this was what brought you to, or let me say it's a platform. I won't say what brought you, but let me just say it's a platform that you set up, and which made you famous in Lagos State, before the nation. So can you tell us about how you came about the the idea for Scale Up?
Okay, so MCS, which is the private firm that a few friends and I run, we set up the firm around three broad areas. One, which was learning, two, which was management consultancy, and three, which is project management. So those are like the three tripods upon which MCS as a private firm was built. And as I so Skill Up came as a result of one of the strands of the company, which is project management. And right. So for project management, if you take a look at my CV, I had been involved in project management long even before I got invited to join a construction project management. And I need to say that because a lot of people always think once you mention project management, it has to be construction or civil or engineering or something. But the world now has moved and has understood that terminology better. So you now know that anything and everything can actually be a project once it has a start and an end date. If it doesn't have a start and an end date, then it's an operation. But in those days, I had to always educate in this space. But in any case, not too long after that, I then found myself in the construction space, running a project in the construction management, in the construction space. But my forte was construction, managing the people resources and managing the flow. I had all the other expertise, the architects, the engineers, service engineers, quantity surveyors. I had them as other members of the team. Okay. So that particular project was such that we had planned the project. We had gone. It was a project outside of Lagos, was in Port Harcourt precisely. We had gone a few times to do reconnaissance, come back, do site, do our planning, meet with the clients and what have you. And we moved to site. And in moving to site, we just moved with what I call the heads, the heads of the team, the management team, so to speak, with the intention that we would get our artisans and skilled labor from the locality. But that was not to be. And after 2 weeks, in fact, we had to go as close as Aba. I don't want to say as far because Aba is quite close to Port Harcourt. We had to go as close as Aba from Port Harcourt to even be able to get some level of skilled people. And I recollect by the time we were going to pause the project after about week 2, it was only the contractor that worked with us, subcontractor that worked with us on aluminium grills that actually remained of those that started with us on day 1. We had to let every other set of people go and then came back to Lagos to now, recruit the manpower and what have you. So now, of course, even when we got back, so of course, we now had to change the dynamics of the project, to now have to get a guest house, have to have the client get us arrange a staff boss, some level of security to bring them from site, back to the guest house and whatever you. So it was that particular project that opened my eyes into the challenges of that space, which is a skills space. And from my culture and training as a process consultant, when you see challenges, you want to deep dive and as an entrepreneur, scout for opportunities. So that was what led me into the detailed research. So it wasn't just something I stumbled on it, but then we went into years of research trying to understand and unearth what the limiting factors were. And I discussed a whole lot of that in the book when I was defining the Skill Up methodology and how we came to put together Skill Up, because part of it also is to take lessons learned from those who have gone ahead of you, those who have tried it before, those who have failed, things like that. So those were all that, those are all that we did. We did at the, at the time. And so, yes, so in defining, so that was, it was that project that inspired that skill up. But then again, one of the things I've also learned as a process person is proof of concept. Everyone can have an idea, but not every idea may make it to a proper, may make it to fruition. So it's always good to be able to do what is called a proof of concept. So that was what, and because the skill up methodology I mentioned, like I like to describe the five fingers bridge, because it had talked about the industry, it had talked about the government, it had talked about the training providers or the training organizations, whether it's the government schools or the private sector ones or NGO ones. It had mentioned the role of the instructors and workshop assistants, and finally even the learners themselves, all could join together to form that five fingers bridge. It therefore became imperative that I needed to build a coalition across those five fingers. And since Lagos was my base, and in that time as well, in the which was in the era of Honorable Minister now, but Governor Babatunde Raji Fashola at that time as Governor of Lagos, he incidentally also had identified that lacuna and was ready to reform that space. And in fact, that was what led to the creation of the Lagos State Technical Vocation and Education Board. So with that, it's like a case of a ready buyer, ready seller, ready seller, ready buyer. So I basically just then went with all these partners within the state of Lagos to be able to pilot the idea. But one of the things we did from the start also was to recognize that we wanted to be able to give our trainees this global, a type of a global recognition or global certification or global access. So obviously we used, we worked with the City and Guilds of London. Now we expressed our interest to them. They worked with us to get our center approved as a City and Guilds center. And and that's how we started with the Skill Up Academy. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And the book documents a lot about the progress of Skill Up. So if you want to know more about that, buy the book. But even beyond that, I think you also talked about, maybe you can just mention one or two great ambassadors of Skill Up.
Oh, okay. There are quite a few of them. But as you know, limitations of print would always want you to just shorten. In the book, I mentioned Shile, who is right now in Dubai. I don't know. He may not be watching because it's 3 hours. They're 3 hours ahead, so they're already maybe like 11 or so, maybe sleeping. That was what happened last week. Saturday, later got across to me to say, oh my goodness, he was sleeping already. But he's in Dubai now. Was one of our trainees in the electrical field. In the same book, I mentioned Femi Adeoti, right, who now is also doing, he worked with Dangote for quite a bit, and now he's doing his own private stuff with some other stakeholders in that space. There is also Opeyemi, what's his Ayeniba. He's right now with Crohn's. In fact, even as I speak, I know he's in Ghana on an assignment from his company now with Guinness. So many of them, out there that we relate with, and they're proud to be associated with that. With the brand, in terms of some obviously had been trained, like in case of Okwemi, he had been trained, but he came to us for his City and Guild certification. Some obviously were trained by us and also went into and went ahead with their City and Guilds certification. So it just depends on where you come in within the value chain. But for each and every one that goes through our doors, we make it a point of duty to always keep in touch and keep in contact with them. Yeah. So those were the few success stories I had mentioned in the book. But yes, it is what you find is that the model works and the model speaks for itself. It's the same model. I mean, I don't want to jump ahead of you since you haven't spoken about Empower, but it's the same model that upon which we built even the Empower vocational training, the Empower Build or the Empower Tech Knowledge and what have you. It's really about the same model. It's a model about linking the bridge, you know, the town meeting the gown, the industry taking the lead, the industry defining the competency gaps, the industry defining the curriculum that helps to close those competency gaps, you know, and then obviously ensuring that we also have the quality trainers to train in closing those gaps, and above all, ensuring therefore that you also then have a global awarding body to certify them. You have other local awarding bodies, no doubt, don't get me wrong. We have NAPTEP in Nigeria, the National Board for Technical and National Board for Technical, I think it's NAPTEP is National Business and Technical Education Examination Board. We have that, and you have quite a few other awarding bodies for the hospitality industry. For example, you have the Institute of Tourism Professionals, you know, and you have them all across for construction industry, building construction. You have the Nigerian Institute of Builders. So you have all these awarding bodies, but then again, it doesn't take away if you also decide to also get a global awarding body. But what is important is because we must realize that we do not train and we should not train for training's sake, and which is also the thing about education. We should not train or educate for training's sake. You must educate towards an output, and the output is towards employment or towards jobs. So therefore, who controls employment, who controls jobs, who controls entrepreneurship? It is the industry. So once the industry are brought to the table, ab initio, to define where the trend of the industry is going, what they see 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, the kind of skill sets they see, the requisite skill set you need to have. Once they define that and they can properly articulate that in what is then later known as an occupational standards that guide, that guide your level of knowledge, then and if you then train them right, train them on the basis of competency, not just on, and competence is a function of knowledge and practical. Knowledge and practice, you know, so because the knowledge must be applied. So once you do that, guess what? The industry will not have any problem engaging them, either as entrepreneur, either as part-time, either as a contractor, subcontractor. They will not have any issues engaging them. But if we train for training's sake, for our own reasons, to our own comfort, to whatever it is, not even minding that the industry has gone way ahead from what we are training today, then that's when you will continue to have unemployment, even as much as we would also say that we are training. So that was what we set out in Skill Up at that time to correct, and we knew clearly that government had to be a partner. And the thing also is that it has to be government at all levels, because incidentally, education is one of the few items that are on the concurrent list in our constitution. So you find that federal, state, and local governments are all responsible for education in one form or the other. So it's also not a space that you need to wait for federal before you act. You can act as a state government, like you saw BRF take the initiative in Lagos. You can act as a local government. You can act even as the industry in itself, just as you will see a lot of industries having their own academy, whether it's Dangote Academy, whether it's Coca-Cola Academy, and the likes. You know, so it's a space that we must come in a contributory manner to address, and it's a challenge that we must address. We must address rigorously for a youth population that we are. We don't have a choice, and we have very limited choices, and in such a short time as well. So,
okay, well. So let's, you were going to talk about Empower. So I'll just say, if you're just joining, I'm speaking to Mr. Afolabi Mokwede. He's the Senior Special Assistant to the President. That's the Nigerian President on Job Creation. And he's the author of this book, Never an Afterthought.
Afterthought, yeah.
Indeed. Private sector pragmatism to government idealism and the end power success story. So, senior special assistant to the president on job creation. Big
Yes,
man,
sir.
big job.
Big title, you want to say?
Big title. You know,
big title, you probably want to say. Okay.
So, how did you get into this role? I mean, you document a bit of it in the book. So I just want you to scratch the surface so you don't give too much.
Yeah.
But yes, please let us know.
So I think the point, what you'll find, you know, reading this book, a few reasons why I wrote the book. One reason is that empire is about humanity in all forms and in all. I said empire. The book, Never an Afterthought, is about humanity in all forms and in all shapes. So whether it is, and this story of humanity and my role in the place of humanity predates empire, which was the old essence, and it would consist even after empire. So it's almost it's almost a Siamese twins, you know, with me, you know. But then, what is also another reason why I also wrote the book is also to enable a lot of our readers and those of us who are out there also understand from the eye of the government sometimes, and the role that we all must play in this commonwealth of a nation that we call Nigeria. So we really all have a role to play, and also to then mention, as I said again last night to Nigerians in diaspora, that you don't need to get into government to begin to impact and affect your society and your community. You don't need to at all. You don't even need a portfolio. And I think that's what I also try to do in documenting my trajectory, you know, to show that I've been making impact even before coming into public sector. I've been making impact even in partnership with the government, even before coming into that space. I made that some of those were also done even as a consultant of international development, DFID, and things like that, that look to intervene in different aspects of our socioeconomic space. And then to perhaps also send the message, you know, because another reason that I wrote that book is also to share some life principles that has worked for me. And principles, as you know, are universal. If you do what another person did with that principle, you will get the same result that the other person get. So also just to document the fact that some of us, and as I always want a lot more people to come into that space, a lot more like minds, like all of us, young people. So even with the young, not too young to run bill signed. So the whole point is, don't think that until not too young to run bill, then everybody wants to be president, or not too young to run bill, then everybody wants to be governor. Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because again, there would only be one president over 200 million Nigerians. There will only be one president over the geographic space of 36 states and an FCT. But guess what? There can be up to 774 local government chairman, right? If we went for chairmanship, there can be multiples of 774 number of people as councillors. There can be multiples of, you know, and all of these people would also need aides at different levels as you climb up. So you realize, but then the value you would add when suddenly this is your dream of coming into public space, the value you are going to add is not going to come when you get into the space. That value is going to come from what you were doing yesterday.
Before you got there.
Before you got into this space. It's often said that success, when opportunity meets preparation, it is equal to success. I was reading a blog post of Mr. Tony Elumelu on Instagram a few days ago, and he quoted the same thing, that success when opportunity meets preparation, it is equal to success. So the whole point is, you know, this whole thing that we sit down and we're all just dreaming and hoping one day to be this big boy, to be this big title in government, you know, but then you then get there, what do you have to give? You don't have anything from where you are coming from, you know. So those are part of the reasons why you know, why I wrote the book, and sticking to so when you ask the question, how did you get there? How did it happen? Well, that is what it is. It's a trajectory that was not, it didn't have that end. It was also a trajectory of value creation. It was a trajectory of consistent, continuous improvement in value creation. But then, as you know, with relationship and with relationship and with connecting dots, things would, you know, opportunity would meet preparation. So, so since you said I shouldn't give up a lot, it was based on so that they can read the book and know what is in there. It was that because I documented how I happened, but basically it was the same skill up and the work I've been doing in skill up. You know, that whoever referred me to my principals in government knew. Didn't even just know about it. He didn't just hear about it. He saw it in practice. And as you saw as well, even while in government, you saw the forward of His Excellency BRF. He wrote there, I myself was a personal witness of this story because I honored the graduation of X number of graduates of the Empower program. Yes, guess what? In chapter 8 of the book, you also have a full text of his address when he was commencement speaker at Skill Up graduation 5 years ago. Sure. So, you know, life is, that is what life is. As someone is asking what book, well, it is about this book, the Never an Afterthought book. I'm sure you would address that. But, you know, but that's what life is. And I want us, especially as young people, to understand that even the Bible that, and I'm sure maybe the Quran has its own version, it says that if you do not walk, you should not eat. It talks about diligence. I say, see a man who is diligent in his work, he shall not stand before mean men, he shall stand before kings. Those words stand true. And I am a testament to those words. So it's not about Godfather at all. I mean, that's not my story. If it was, it would be in the book. It's not about Godfather at all. Yeah.
So essentially, you had been diligent, and as you were being diligent, you were being noticed to the point that somebody would refer you to your principals in government.
Yes.
And work spoke for you.
Yes.
Okay. And
yes.
They could think of no other person, or they could think of other people, but your work stood out so much that, you know, you fitted the role.
Yeah, let me say this. You see, the point is this, and like I said also in the book, and I make no boast about it here, I'm not the smartest of persons at all, in any form, in any shape. And there are clearly perhaps more qualified people than I am, with all the requisite degrees and various acronyms after their name. But the point is, let's also understand the environment where we are in. Nigeria is what it is today, not because we lack or want policy documents, not because we lack or want theory, but we lack practice and consistent practice in a magnificent form. We lack implementation. We lack dogged implementation. In Nigeria requires a completely different kind of mindset. A mindset of, you know what, we can take this thing down. A can-do spirit is what is required in Nigeria. And, you know, and you therefore begin to realize that you need to retrain your brain to be able to deliver in a kind of environment. It was John Maxwell, and I was sharing with a colleague earlier today. I read one of his books, Attitude 101, many years ago. And he said something. He said, what do you see? He says, your success in life starts with what you see. Is it difficulty in every opportunity, which is common, or opportunity in every difficulty? So if you have not retrained your brain or your mind, you're not Nigeria. You're not going to find Nigeria working. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. The obstacles are there. They are real. And as I was sharing also last night with my fellow Nigerians in the diaspora, I said, listen, the reasons not for it not to work is head cooling. The reasons for it not to work is head cooling. Our problems are multi-hydra. Multi-hydra. So let's not, but you see, the first place to start is to accept the reality of this problem. That yes, this problem exists. And I understand the complexity of this problem. But guess what? If you have trained yourself in opportunities, in difficulties, what your eye will begin to look for is an inroad. Yes, an entry point to make an inroad, and you begin to chip. A lot of people will call you a fool. When I sat in my study in the year 2009, 2010, writing policy statements, around TVET, I contributed to the policy statement of Ondo Technical Vocational Board as vice chairman of the Reform Council that was set up by then Governor, the Mimico, chaired by Engineer Laomi Gaspar, and I was the vice chairman. I sat in my study, right, to writing the white paper and things like that. Anybody who knows me now, where did they know me then? So you don't come out now and work with from the world of experience, and practicalize. And I'm not just talking about theory. Like I said to you, one of my training is that the first thing you do with any idea, because any fool can have an idea, any fool. But the first thing you do with any idea is a proof of concept. And that's the point where I said you find an entry point, you knock it, and then you begin to chip. You begin to chip the wall. You begin to chip it. You begin to chip the rock. You begin to chip that obstacle. And gradually, even the forces of nature, yes, sir, will collide with you to pull it down. That is what it takes to succeed. That is what it takes to deliver Nigeria. It's not what we think, and that's why I went into, the prince could not have, the prince limited me. Do you know how many sleepless nights? We didn't know a Saturday from Sunday when we were looking to roll out Empire. We didn't know a Saturday from Sunday. We didn't know morning or whatever. I mean, I remember a particular time when I was going to roll out, after we had rolled out the graduate program, both the batch 1 and I think it was the batch 2. Yes, it must have been 2017. I was a guest of the Edo State Governor in his yearly economic summit, November 2017. And I was to leave Abuja that morning, I think on the 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock flight. My colleague Roland, who's watching, may be able to correct me. It was about 9 o'clock flight or so to Benin. But guess what? That was the day as well that the physical verification of our over 20,000 empowered non-graduate component, the vocational people, were going to start. Their physical verification across country was going to start. And because they had sent some list and I found some errors and I recall that list and we stayed back in the office to correct that list, I did not leave my office after I had shared it to all the 36 states, NOA directors and focal persons across Nigeria, plus FCT. Guess what? I didn't leave my office until 6 a.m. 5:45, 6 a.m. thereabout was when I left my office that morning. I went from my office straight home. What is sleep? What's the point when I had a flight for 9 o'clock to catch? I literally just took a shower. Roland had left the office earlier at about 3. And so all I did was was to give him a shout and say, "Oh, God, wake up, call." And then we're on the way to Benin. Yes, Oshoke was typing. That was where I met him. Edo State Alagodaro in 2017. Yes, so this is what it is. The problem we have is that we have too much talk and little doing. That's a problem. We've gotten so bad in this thing now that a lot of us have built mentalities around fake it till you make it. Just keep faking it till one day somebody believe in you and you just then you begin to stumble and fumble and mumble. But I think that it's time that all of us, and you see, I say this fully understanding that I'm a government official and I'm speaking from my own experience in government and still in government. But the point is this: Nigeria will not be the Nigeria we're all looking for without that 5 fingers bridge. Right. It is going to take even beyond the 5 fingers, the 10. Because, like my late mom used to say, what's that proverb in Yoruba? papọ̀, taba for méjèèjì papọ̀ ló máa mú mọ́. I mean, that's not a proverb. I'm just paraphrasing. Basically, that if you just want to wash your hand like this, it's not going to be clean. You're going to need your 2 hands, your 10 fingers to wash together like this for you to get the effect. That is what it's going to take. It's going to take all of us, the government, the industry, the private sector, the the youths, the religious organization, the cultural organizations. Every one of us are going to be required to first come back, sit back and say, okay, this problem, first and foremost, we all created the problem. We are all contributors to the problem. Do we agree? Now we agree, okay, now we want to begin to solve it. The trust is required. The trust is required amongst all parties. And these are the reasons why, I shared my story. Just so that, a lot more of us can learn from it, just so that we can stir up a lot of conversations, around the Commonwealth, or around the definition of the Commonwealth is that all of us own Nigeria. And we all have a role to play. And to say that 90% of that role is even when you are outside of government.
Right.
So that's because if you really look at the stories in the book, empower being referenced in the book was only a proof of greater concept. And like I mentioned in the book, when I had my first engagements also with the vice president after I had been introduced, I said to him, it's about a template that we have designed. It's about a template that has worked. It's about a template that's beyond just a national template, it's a global template. And I am fully convinced that we can leverage the federal to deliver again on the workability of these templates. Now, these templates were not designed while I was in government. These templates were designed while I was just any other private citizen. So the point I'm saying, there are many of us, you are many of us, perhaps 190 plus million Nigerians that are developing working templates right now. That all that it requires is for you to prove, to continue with your proof of concept. And then, of course, at some point in time, with all these media channels and relational networking channels that we have, that opportunity will meet. That your preparation will meet with your opportunity that will lead to success. So that's really what it is. That's what it is, my brother.
Now, you see, I just have to recover a little bit for that. That was the passion I could feel, the inspiration I could feel, and that's also the experience when you read the book. So, it's like you're bringing the book alive. To me, with the passion you have for the development of our country. But I want to speak. I mean, time is going, and we have just about 10 minutes left now.
Yeah.
So I will bunch up about 3 questions together. First, okay. I want to just talk about. You talked about consistent practice.
Yeah.
You talked about your role in government with Empower as a job creator. And I want to ask how we can make it sustainable. Secondly, I would like to ask about legacy, future plans, maybe another book in the works. And lastly, a bit of trivial question, because, this book talked a lot about a serious, policy and your life story. So what are your interests, maybe lastly? So we'll end on that.
Okay, good. Thank you. So yes, your first question around how do you sustain? You see, like I mentioned, it's about consistency. Whatever it is that is good must be sustained continuously. So consistency, and then that's always the first question we have, especially when you are running a government program, sustainability. There's first the issue of will this party go, another party come, will they continue? If you go, another person come, will they continue? And we have all those. It's a current issue now. With Empower Volunteers. The issue about transition or no transition and what have you. But yes, my point is that. Sustainability is very critical. And what we did, and I hope that we as a people would get to the point where we really understand the power and the role of institutions versus persons. And that's also one of the things I espouse in the book, which is what I did. I could have been a lot of the manner, but I didn't do that. I worked with institutions, at least over 40 that I could remember that were chronicled in the book, that whether I'm there or not are still there and they can continue. So yes, so I think I would answer the sustainability question in a few ways. One is the fact that we need a lot of our states to domesticate what we have modeled. The social investment program is not just a WIMP program. It's a program that, in my view, is a precursor to us developing Nigeria to become, developing the social safety net of Nigeria. Just like you have in any country that the developed countries of this world that have their welfare system well ingrained in their culture and in their systems. That's the journey that's the journey I believe we began. And so for that journey to be strengthened, for it to be deepened, and for it to be sustained, in the question that you ask, we must bring to light the federation, our constitution that is a federating entity. So the first appeal I want to make is for the states to now sit back, having experienced the first experience of 4 years of this social investment, whether it's Empower, whether it's school feeding and what have you. Each state needs to sit and domesticate. And I must commend the governor of Kwara State. He gets it, and he's doing it already, fully domesticating the social investment in Kwara State. And that's what we should have across all the 36 states of Nigeria. That's one. The second thing is really about the people themselves. And that's what I try to do with the Empower program. To say, listen, you want to demystify entitlement mentality as much as possible, but you want to take on the opportunity that you have and maximize that opportunity. I believe, and I know, and I do agree, that our government need to do more for his or her people. I believe so. But then again, if we all don't agree with it, because in agreeing with it as a people, then there are roles for each and every one of us. One of the roles because we like to say government is not doing more. Yes. But the other part for government to do more, which is you and I responsibility, e.g. paying tax, we'll say we won't pay the tax, and then again we'll say, but I pay the money, I don't see the road. I don't, So there's just, which is why I said there's this whole mistrust amongst all of us as different constituents in one federation. But so what we did with Empower was to say, take your own destiny in your own hands, as an individual, and forge ahead with your own personal development, with your own personal development, So that's true. The third is that whatever level of early success, and I'm very careful by defining it early success, whatever level of early success we have attained, there's still much more to be done. Let's not kid ourselves. There's still much more. I documented what I call what was chapter 12 now? I forget what I titled it, which is where the Empower volunteers.
Don't.
Okay. I documented what I said there, where the volunteers themselves spoke about their experience, not because we had gotten to El Dorado. No, I documented it because I wanted it as another proof of concept that if you do the right things, even in 2.5 years, you will get early harvest. Now, what does a farmer do with early harvest? If a farmer does not tend the garden within his early harvest, that early harvest will not get to bumper harvest. So that is my conversation, still as a government official, and more importantly to the Ministry of Humanitarian and Social Investment, Disaster Management Social Investment, that is now in charge of the program. There is a whole lot more to be done, a whole lot more. So whatever we have our early successes, we need to tend it. We just can't throw out 500,000 Empower youths. We need to tend them. We need to create opportunities for entrepreneurship. For them, we need to do connected markets, value chain markets. You know, we just need to, because these are investments we have made in lives. And so you need to nurture those investments. You may not need to put them in payroll. Fine, yes, they don't have to remain in payroll, but we need to, we need to nurture them a little more. So that's that in terms of sustainability. You then asked another question in terms of legacy. Yes, legacy, definitely, this is part of legacy. The book in itself is contributing to the body of knowledge, and it's part of legacy. The purpose of the book, like I shared a few of it earlier, is not so much because thanks to you that people will buy the book from your bookstore and a few other partnering stores, but it's not really. It is about putting it in your library, but more beyond that. And the beyond that is actually the legacy. In a few weeks, we'll be releasing some other things that we'll call It's much more than the book. We'll be releasing podcasts. We'll be releasing a few more things. I'm sure my people will not want me to let the cat too much out of the bag, but watch this space for more things. And clearly, yes, there are more books that will still be written. But then if you also, one of the things I've also taken on board, because there was something I did in this book, was to paint a trajectory of not just my own generation, but from my father's generation. Yes, and so you would notice that one of the chapters, since you said I shouldn't give details, one of the chapters there I talked about sustaining a legacy. So I've taken that on, and myself and a few of my siblings would be sustaining that legacy in some work that we'll be doing, and I mentioned a few of it in that particular chapter. So yes, we're mindful about legacy. Well, in the last 2-3 minutes of your conversation, yes. So Folabi is not all the serious. Folari that is commenting now perhaps can tell you a little more about Folabi. I mean, so it's not about the whole serious thing. I work hard, but I play hard. I play very hard. I listen to music. I am a traditionalist when it comes to music, which is why I flow well in Proverbs or bass or knee, all those old school. I mean, you saw, if you had watched Instagram live with Dele Momodi, was King Sonny Ade I asked for to play. So yes, I enjoy old school quite a bit. Old school. I mean, even the other R&B and all that old school music that I do. Of course, I am a social person. I don't go to every party, but I'm a social person. I hang out with just 2 friends is enough, is a party for me, So, and then of course, I'm not the typical sportsman that would say whether I believe I'm a Chelsea fan, not because of blue. Blue, I love her blue, and so Chelsea's blue, so I'm a Chelsea fan by their color. But then, I should go back to golf. There was a time in my life that I played golf, but I would go back to it in a bit. But yes, I am balanced by the grace of God. I am balanced. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. I've been speaking to Mr. Folabi Imokwede, the author of this fantastic book, which is not just his life story, but also a book for anyone who wants to go into public service or who wants to understand more about public service. And also a book of just for life principles and how you can start little and continue to grow. So watch this space. The future continues to remain bright for him. Thank you very much, sir, for all the gems you have shared this evening. It's been a
wonderful. Thank you for learning. Thank you so much. Oh wow, Dolly Peace is just joining when we're closing out. Where she will watch the video.
And thank you to Dolly Peasy, because she was the one that connected us together.
Oh yeah. So when we talk about relationship and network, right?
And everyone commenting. Some are Chelsea, some are Arsenal, some are.
I see everybody now praising their own team.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, Valerie. God bless you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Okay.
Good night.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Yeah.